When my great-grandmother passed, I thought I'd only be grieving her loss. But in Lexington, grief came with hidden papers, shocking confessions, and a trail of financial that pointed straight to someone I trusted most. In the middle of a July night, I found a document in her cedar chest that would turn our family into enemies. My name's Mario. I'm 39, born and raised in Lexington, Kentucky. It was July 14th, 11:37 p.m., when I found myself sitting on the creaky floorboards of my great-grandmother Agnes's old farmhouse. She had passed away 3 weeks earlier at 92, and we were still sorting through decades of her life. The place smelled like cedar and mothballs, with the faint sweetness of the roses she used to grow still lingering outside. I was supposed to be boxing up her things for donation. Instead, I was kneeling in front of her cedar chest, the one she'd never let anyone open. The lock was already broken. My cousin Lisa said it probably happened during the move. Inside were lace doilies, brittle letters, and a small metal tin that rattled when I picked it up. I pried it open. Inside were neatly folded bank documents. My breath caught when I saw the figure on one of the statements, $85,000. The account was in my great-grandmother's name, but the withdrawals in the past year were huge. The largest one, $40,000, was dated only 2 months before she died. The signature next to it wasn't hers. It was my mother's. I sat back against the wall, my pulse thudding in my ears. Mom had been Agnes's favourite, but she'd also been drowning in debt after Dad's business failed. Still this? From the kitchen, I heard voices, my mother's sharp tone, and my Aunt Helen's lower, clipped words. She promised me that money, Mom said. Helen hissed, "You'll keep quiet, or I'll tell Mario what you did with it." I froze, my hand still on the documents. Did my aunt know about this? And what had Mom done that was bad enough to keep her silent? The floor creaked in the hallway. Footsteps came closer. I stuffed the papers under my shirt, heart hammering, just as the door swung open. Mom stood there, her face pale, her eyes darting to the chest. "What are you doing in here?" she demanded. I didn't answer. The weight of those papers against my ribs felt like a bomb ready to go off. I didn't sleep that night. The papers burned in my mind, every number imprinted like they were carved into my skull. By morning, I had them hidden inside an old binder in my apartment, somewhere Mom would never look. At 8:12 a.m. my phone buzzed. It was my cousin Lisa. "You need to come back to the house," she said. "Helen's saying there's going to be a family meeting." The way she hesitated before a family meeting told me it wasn't about who got the china set. When I arrived, the living room looked like some kind of old-time court hearing. My mother sat in Agnes's green velvet armchair, her legs crossed, eyes cold. Aunt Helen perched on the sofa's edge, flipping through a manila folder. Lisa hovered near the mantel, arms folded tight. "Let's cut to it," Helen said, looking straight at Mom. "You took the $85,000 from Agnes's savings. I've got the proof. Sign the agreement I wrote up, and I won't tell Mario what else you've done." My mother's lips curled. "You think he'd believe you over me?" "Try me," I cut in, my voice sharper than I intended. They both froze. Mom recovered first. "Mario, honey, you don't know the full story. Agnes, she wanted me to have that money. She said it was for me too." I slammed my hand on the coffee table. "Then why forge her signature?" Her face went still, like a mask sliding into place. "You've been snooping." Helen leaned forward, her voice low but trembling. "You think stealing from an old woman is bad? Ask her about the deed transfer last year. Ask her whose name is on the farmhouse now." My stomach dropped. "What deed transfer?" Helen tossed a folded paper onto the table. I opened it with shaking hands. There it was, dated August 3rd last year, the house signed over from Agnes to my mother, witnessed by a notary. But something else caught my eye. The second page was a loan agreement. It named a man I didn't recognize, Victor Grant. Amount $60,000. Collateral, the farmhouse. I looked at Mom. "Who the hell is Victor?" Her jaw tightened. "That's none of your business." "It is," Helen cut in, "because Victor isn't a lender, he's her, let's just say, business partner." Mom shot up from the chair, her voice sharp. "Say it and I'll ruin you, Helen." Helen's hand hovered over her folder. "I've got the photos, don't test me." Lisa glanced between them, her face pale. "What photos?" Helen didn't answer. She just met my eyes. "You want to know the real betrayal, Mario. That's not just about money." I could feel the room tightening, the air heavy with unspoken things. That's when Helen slid one glossy photo across the table toward me, and my entire understanding of my family started to crumble. I picked up the photo with trembling fingers. The image was grainy but unmistakable, my mother, smiling, standing next to a man I didn't know. But it wasn't the man that made my stomach turn, it was where they were. Agnes's farmhouse, in the middle of her own garden, the same one I had grown up visiting every summer. "And that's Mom?" I whispered. Helen nodded, her lips tight. "Yes, and that man is Victor Grant. He wasn't just a business partner, he was the reason Agnes gave Mom that money in the first place." Mom's face went pale. "I can't explain." "No, let him see," Helen snapped. "You were manipulating her. Mario, every visit, every favor, every promise, you were taking advantage of her." I stared at Mom. Her hands were shaking. Mom, what did you do to Agnes? Why all the secrecy? She looked away, voice low. She trusted me. She didn't know how desperate I was. Victor, he threatened me if I didn't give him control over her finances. I didn't want to tell anyone. I felt the room tilt. The smell of roses, the cedar, the familiar creak of the floorboards, they all became sinister, tainted by deceit. Lisa spoke quietly, almost to herself. So all those stories about her secret trips to the city, she was meeting him. Mom's lips trembled. Yes, every month. He convinced me to take the money out of her accounts. I thought I was protecting her. I sank into the sofa, a photo slipping from my hands onto the carpet. My fingers ached, my heart pounding. Protecting her. I echoed. You stole from her, Mom. You let a stranger manipulate her, all while keeping it from the rest of us. Mom opened her mouth, closed it, then whispered, I was afraid of losing you, Mario. I could hardly breathe. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was personal, deep, rooted in every Sunday dinner, every whispered family story Agnes had shared. Then Helen leaned forward, her voice low but venomous. And if you think it stops here, Mario, I've got letters, correspondence between Mom and Victor, threats, manipulations, lies, everything. Do you really want to see the full extent of her betrayal? Before I could answer, the bedroom door creaked. My Uncle George appeared, his face unreadable. You kids are meddling where you shouldn't, he said. Victor isn't done yet, and neither is the fallout. The weight of those words pressed down on me. Fallout? What had Mom started? And what would it cost our family? I glanced at the photo again. The man in it wasn't just a stranger. He was a ticking bomb waiting to explode in Lexington, and we were standing right in the blast zone. My hand shook as I realized one truth. Agnes's death hadn't ended her influence. It had unleashed a chain of secrets, lies, and manipulations that might destroy everything we thought we knew. And Victor was still out there. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every shadow in my apartment seemed to stretch toward me like it was carrying secrets. At 2:43 a.m., my phone vibrated. It was an unknown number. Mario, the low, smooth voice said, Yes? I answered cautiously. This is Victor Grant. I believe you have something that belongs to me. My stomach dropped. Somehow, he knew about the papers. What do you want? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Cooperation, he said simply. Or consequences. You don't want your mother or Lisa to get hurt, do you? I hung up, heart racing. Sweat prickled along my spine. Victor wasn't just a name on a document, he was a predator in the dark, pulling strings I hadn't even seen. The next morning, I returned to the farmhouse to confront Mom. She was sitting in the kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee, eyes hollow. Mario, she started. Don't, I snapped. I know everything Victor called me last night. Her face went pale, and for a moment, I thought she might collapse. Instead, she drew herself up, voice tight. Then you know why I did it. He would have ruined us. He had documents, debts, threats. I slammed my hand on the table. Stop lying. You betrayed Agnes. You let him manipulate her for your own gain. How could you even think that was protecting her? Mom's lips quivered. I loved her. I did what I thought was right to keep her safe and keep us alive. I shook my head. You used her trust, Mom, and now Victor is coming for more. Lisa appeared behind the kitchen doorway, her face pale. He left a note under the front door. He's asking for the remaining balance, $45,000 by Friday, or he'll expose everything. I stared at Mom. So all of this, the manipulation, the photos, the forged withdrawals, it's just the beginning. Her hand shook. Yes. Then Helen's voice cut from the living room, calm but deadly. Mario, you need to decide. Do you protect her, or do you let the truth come out? I looked at the pile of letters, the forged bank statements, the photograph of Mom smiling with Victor in Agnes's garden. Every detail screamed betrayal, manipulation, and hidden agendas. And then I realized the worst part. We were all trapped in a web Agnes had never intended us to see, and Victor was tightening it around us like a noose. I clenched my fists. Something had to be done. But as I turned toward the bedroom to gather more evidence, I froze. On the floor, illuminated by the sliver of morning light through the window, was another photograph. It was Agnes, but not with my mother. It was her smiling in Victor's arms. My heart stopped. Agnes herself had been part of the betrayal. I stared at the photo, unable to breathe. Agnes, my great-grandmother, the woman I had idolized my entire life, smiling in Victor Grant's arms. The lines of trust and family loyalty I had clung to for decades shattered in an instant. Mom's voice broke the silence. Mario, you need to understand, it wasn't just about money. I looked at her, anger and disbelief roaring in my chest. Not just about money, Mom. She was 92, and you and Victor manipulating her like this? How is that not about money? Lisa stepped forward, voice shaking. So all those letters from Agnes praising Mom, she was lying too. Mom's eyes glistened with tears. No, she wasn't lying. She wanted to protect the family. She thought if Victor got what he wanted, the rest of us would be safe. I didn't know she shared her own arrangements. Helen shook her head slowly. Mario, The reality is this: Agnes was part of it all. She and Victor conspired to set Mom up as a buffer to shield him from scrutiny while still keeping the money flowing. I felt my hands tighten into fists. My mother had betrayed her mother. Her mother had betrayed the family. And Victor had orchestrated it all like a chess master. Why didn't she tell anyone? I asked, voice barely audible. Helen's eyes were hard. She thought the truth would destroy us, and maybe she was right. At that moment, the living room phone rang. Mom jumped, hesitating before picking it up. "Hello," she said. A pause. Then a low, familiar voice. "The balance, $45,000. Pay or the rest of the files go public. You know what happens then." Her hand trembled on the receiver. I don't have it. Mario has it." Victor's laugh cut her off. "Oh, I know Mario has it. That's why I'm calling him next." I felt bile rise in my throat. He knew I had the papers. He knew we had uncovered the truth. And now he was escalating. Lisa whispered behind me, "We can't go to the police. If he's got those files..." I clenched my jaw, trying to keep my fear in check. "Then we fight smart. We expose Victor first, before he exposes us. That's the only way." Mom's eyes widened. "Mario, you don't know what you're suggesting. Victor isn't just dangerous, he's ruthless. He'll..." Before she could finish, Helen slammed her folder down. "Enough talking. If we're going to survive this, we need proof, leverage, and a plan." And then I saw a small envelope sticking out from under the couch. My heart raced. I bent down and pulled it out. Inside were photos, letters, and bank statements that even Helen hadn't seen. A grin slowly crept across her face. "Well, Mario, looks like we just found our ace." But as I looked closer, my stomach turned. One photo was folded in a way that revealed a face I didn't recognize. And then I realized it wasn't Victor. It was Mom. And she had been orchestrating parts of this betrayal all along. The room went silent. The weight of our family's secrets pressed down like a storm about to break. And I knew, in that moment, the battle for truth and revenge was only just beginning. By Friday morning, the tension in the farmhouse was unbearable. The air smelled of stale coffee, cedar, and fear. Every creak of the floorboards made me jump. Mom sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly at a mug of lukewarm tea. Lisa paced, biting her nails. Helen meticulously organized the papers we had found, her eyes cold but determined. I spread the documents across the table, tracing lines of withdrawals, forged signatures, and correspondence between Mom and Victor. The web of manipulation was more extensive than I had imagined. "Look at this," I said, pointing to a letter from Victor to Mom. "He's threatening legal action. Personal exposure. Even Aunt Helen can't protect us if he moves first." Helen frowned. "And Mom's complicity. She's not just a victim. She's part of his network." Mom flinched. I thought I was doing the right thing. He was dangerous. He would have taken everything, our home, our lives. You thought," I interrupted, voice shaking. "You thought, and you betrayed your own mother. Agnes trusted you, and now we're all trapped in Victor's game." Lisa's voice trembled. "What do? We don't have $45,000 ready, and if he's got more photos or documents..." I took a deep breath. "Then we give him a taste of his own medicine. If he wants leverage, we'll fight fire with fire. I've got the photos, letters, and proof of his manipulations. We expose him first." Alan looked at me, nodding. "Agreed, but we need a controlled plan. One wrong move and he'll destroy everything." We spent the day strategizing. By evening, we had drafted emails, scanned documents, and created backups on multiple drives. Every step felt precarious. One misclick could unleash disaster. Then, just before midnight, the doorbell rang. Mom froze. "It's him." I peeked through the window. A sleek black SUV sat outside. No one inside. But a thick envelope had been left on the doorstep. I grabbed it, my hands trembling. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "I know what you have. I know what you found. Think carefully before you act. V." Helen snorted. "So he's playing chicken. Fine. We play smarter." I opened another document from our stash, revealing an old contract. It showed Victor's name on the deed transfers and an unsigned confession Agnes had hidden in her files. A grin slowly formed on my face. "We don't need to pay him. We can expose him legally and publicly." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "Mario, this could ruin everything. Are you sure?" I looked at her. For the first time, I felt the full weight of anger, betrayal, and determination. "He's been manipulating all of us. Agnes, you, even Helen. It ends tonight." Helen glanced at me. "Then let's get ready. Victor won't see this coming." But just as I was about to call our lawyer friend, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You think you have the upper hand. You have no idea what I'm capable of. V." I stared at the screen, heart pounding. This wasn't just a game anymore. Victor was escalating, and our family's secrets were about to collide with his ruthlessness in ways none of us could predict. And then I saw it's a video attachment. I hesitated. My hand hovered over the play button. And that's when I realized what Victor had recorded could destroy everything. Even me. The video opened with a grainy, shaky frame. My heart skipped. There, in the dimly lit garden of the farmhouse, was Mom arguing with Victor. Her voice was sharp, desperate. I could hear every word. You promised I'd be safe. You said no one would find out. Victor's calm, menacing tone replied, promises are only worth what you're willing to risk, Carol. The rest is collateral. Then the camera shifted. A second figure appeared out us. She was smiling, serene, almost playful. It's all part of the plan, she said, her voice unmistakable. My great-grandmother speaking after her death through Victor's recording. I felt bow rise. The betrayal ran deeper than I imagined. Agnes had known. She had orchestrated the whole scheme to test our loyalty, manipulate Mom, and trap Victor at the same time. Helen gasped beside me. She set Mom up in Victor. Victor continued on the video. If you try anything, Mario, I'll release everything. The papers, the accounts, the photos, the letters. The world will see your family fractured beyond repair. I slammed my hand against the table. Enough. I grabbed our collected evidence, contracts, bank statements, and hidden letters and sent them to a trusted journalist friend who specialized in investigative reporting. The journalist confirmed Victor had multiple fraud allegations across 3 states. Exposing him now would ruin him. At 3:14 a.m., my phone rang again. It was Victor. I see you're trying to play games, Mario. Be careful. I held up the phone, a grin breaking across my face. Victor, did you forget something? You underestimated my great-grandmother. She left us the ultimate leverage, and now it's over. By morning, the Lexington news broke Victor's schemes wide open. Authorities froze his accounts. Every fraudulent transaction and manipulation was documented. Mom, Helen, Lisa, and I sat in the living room, exhausted but alive, as a new chapter began. Mom finally whispered, voice heavy with remorse, Agnes, she wanted us to survive. She wanted us to be stronger than him. I nodded. She did, and she made sure justice came in a way he never expected. The farmhouse smelled of cedar and roses again. But now, it wasn't a place of secrets, it was a symbol of resilience. As for Victor, Lexington had him behind bars, facing charges that would take decades to sort out. And my family? We were shaken, scarred, but together. And I realized the truth about betrayal. It can cut deep, but when faced with loyalty, courage, and a little cunning, even the darkest secrets can be turned to justice. The silence that settled over the farmhouse that morning wasn't empty. It was the calm after a storm my great-grandmother had predicted and prepared for all along. We had survived. And Victor, the man who thought he could manipulate us all, would never harm another family again.